Let's dive into surviving that first dreadful year of being a new grad nurse. Actually, it really doesn't have to be dreadful though. I'm going to actually change that. Let's just say surviving your first year as a solo nurse. Thriving, not surviving. Oh, first things first. Nursing can be hard. If somebody told you nursing isn't hard, they lied to you. Point blank, period. Nursing can be extremely hard. A lot of people become nurses. A lot of people want to become nurses, and hands down, I am extremely thrilled for people who want to become nurses. One of the first things you have to do is kind of get acclimated to the role. Yeah, you were on orientation for weeks or a few months on end, hopefully not weeks. If you're a new grad nurse, please make sure that wherever you're going to, especially if it's a hospital or facility, that your orientation is not 6 to 8 weeks. That's what we give our experienced nurses who's like really coming to a new environment, a new specialty, a new facility. We give them 6 to 8 weeks just to kind of get used to the flow and things, because we expect them to already know how to care for a patient. But if your organization says, no, you're a new grad nurse, we want you to just get only 6 to 8 weeks of orientation, let that be con number one. Let that be a red flag, because where I'm from, we give 16 weeks of orientation for our new grad residents, not 6 to 8 weeks. So your routine is going to be when you come into work. Are you going to come in 10 minutes early, 30 minutes early? Do you get there right at that 7 o'clock hour? I do not advise that. Y'all, do not show up to work right at 7 a.m. or right at 7 p.m. No, give yourself at least 15 to 20 minutes to get settled in, to maybe review a chart or two before you get report, or look at lab values and vital signs at the very least. Because once you get report from that night shift nurse or that day shift nurse going home, that patient is now yours. You have now assumed care, and whatever that nurse may have missed now falls on you. It could be something as simple as getting a CBC drawn at 6 a.m., but now at 7 a.m. you come in and that CBC was never drawn. And when that OB comes around or that intensivist comes around, and now they're asking you why this patient didn't have a CBC drawn at 6 a.m., you can't say, oh, I didn't know, because now it's your responsibility. You should have known. You should have looked at your patient's lab values. You should have looked at your patient's charts before the doctor came. You're now assuming care and then providing that care to patients without having a full, complete look of what this patient's presentation is or what it could potentially mean. This might hit home for a lot of people. This new nurse blues, I've seen it happen on so many occasions. I've seen nurses who are new to being a professional nurse and decide to leave the profession altogether, or just leave in the middle of orientation. I don't really believe in crying for a job. I will say that I've had what I like to call new nurse blues. When I first started out as being a new nurse, I've had the blues. I didn't actually cry until I got into leadership, and that was because I realized that there are some things that I can't change that I want to change, and I want to be able to assist in the change, but my voice would only go so far. So those were the reasons why I've heard tons and tons of stories of nurses crying because it was just so hard. Caring for 6 patients in a med-surg unit, or caring for 3 to 4 ICU patients, because normally ICU is 1 to 2 patients per nurse, but if they're short-staffed or whatever the reason, it might double. And so I've heard nurses talking about how hard it is caring for those patients, having to document consistently, having to round every 2 to 3 hours depending on the patient population, having to call the doctor on a consistent basis because this order either was written incompletely, the patient no longer wants it, it refused it, maybe the medication itself isn't working, and so now you're having to call the doctor again. And who knows, that doctor might be in a surgery, and it's going to take you 30, 40, 50 minutes to finally get a call back. And in that meantime, you're stressed out. You're trying to figure out, well, what the heck am I going to do in the meantime while I'm waiting for this doctor to then call me back and give me orders? Just don't let the stress and the overwhelm of being a new nurse get you in a place of dysfunction mentally and physically and emotionally. And what I mean by that is you get into a really bad depressive funk, your attitude and your behavior starts to change, kind of like a negative spiral. It starts to change You come to work, the crappiest attitude. You don't want to help out your fellow team members. You're being, impatient with your patients, not wanting to provide them with that morphine because they keep asking and calling for you for more pain medicine. Treating people negatively. You just don't want to get to that point. And if you get to that point where it's almost like you are sick and tired of being at that hospital or sick and tired of being at that facility or just in the role in general, it might be time for you to really reevaluate what you want in your life. And if you haven't seen, I have a video that I'll post here. And that video talks about your passion and purpose and how your passion and purpose can then lead you into a profession that you truly, truly desire and want. It's actually okay to cry. I wish that this was a profession that crying wasn't considered a normal thing, a normal step in the process of becoming an independent solo nurse, but it has been. I've seen multiple people cry. I've seen nursing students cry on the units. I've seen nurses cry even when they've been off orientation 2 to 3 months. I'm here to tell you that you will survive. You not only will survive, baby, you will thrive, but you just have to figure out what it is that you want out of life. I will tell you, don't give up too easily. Nursing is hard no matter how you cut the cookie. Cut the cake? No matter how you cut the cake. I just made that up, I think. I hope. I don't know. Give it maybe 6 months. If this isn't truly what you want, give it the 6 months. Because if you think of that Patricia Benner's novice to expert continuum, the first year is going to be the hardest year because you are learning how to navigate all of these different things. Nursing school taught you how to be a nursing student. It taught you how to pass your tests. It doesn't really teach you how to even pass the boards. So you think it's going to teach you how to be a real nurse? No, you never done this before. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time to get adjusted to this new environment, these people, this equipment, the expectations, these policies and procedures and all these different things. Give yourself time to adjust. All of these things will just not come like that. It does not happen that way. Period. And that leads me into my third point. You may feel incompetent. You may feel like you have no earthly idea what's going on, what you're supposed to be doing, where the supplies are. Yeah, orientation showed you where these types of things are, but you had somebody with you to make sure you went to the right area, make sure you grabbed the right piece of equipment. Were you supposed to get this flange or this flange? Were you supposed to get the straight cath or the Foley kit? Now it's on you to really understand and memorize all these different things and know when to use them and how to use them. Also, put in all of your effort. Give it 6 months before you call it quits. Because Shaquilla don't raise no fools. Seriously, give it 6 months, y'all. You don't want to give up too quickly. You will fail, you will fall, you will bump your head. But at the end, you can tell yourself with 100% without a doubt that you tried everything under the sun to make this work. Then do I suggest you moving on to a different career. Only then, once you put in every single fiber of effort in your being, every single fiber, then I say go ahead and switch careers. Until then, you got work to do. You got reading to do. You have conversations to be had, questions to be asked. Do you, girl? Do you, boy? You got this. And if you don't, go ahead and hit me up. Follow me on Instagram at FRN_org. Hit me in the DMs. Tell me what you're feeling. Talk to me in the comment section. We can have a dialogue about these things. Go to my website, www.frn.org. I have 2 PDFs that will help you as a new grad nurse or a nursing student in the making. Go ahead. Use the resources that are available to y'all. You don't have to do this alone. Point 3B. I guess. Point 3B is nursing communities. So you can find nursing communities almost on any platform these days. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Get on somebody's newsletter. Get in somebody's forum. Get in somebody's chat. Even go to the friends you had in nursing school. Create a chat and kind of create a dialogue and create an open space where you guys can vent. Of course, without violating any HIPAA policies and things like that. But just create a space where you can just be your authentic selves and explain and express how hard this is, how tired you are, how you only slept 2 hours last night, or how now you're doing this with the baby that you just had that you weren't really expecting to have, or now you're doing this and you just lost your dad, or your car just broke down and you're stressed and trying to figure out how you're going to get to and from work. Use a community. Let it all out. Speak to the people who really get it. And Lord knows I love my husband. Lord knows I love my friends and my family. But if they're not in the medical field, and specifically the nursing field, there are some things they just won't get and they just won't understand. And I can't fault them for it. It isn't their role. It isn't their job. That's not something that they do. So what I do is I have certain conversations with certain nursing friends or people who I may see that I aspire to be like. And I'm able to speak with them and express how I'm feeling, whether it's good or bad. Point 4, y'all, this is going to be a hard one. Most likely you're going to experience some type of death in your nursing career. It might not be the very first month off orientation. It might not even be the 6th month. But at some point you're going to experience some type of patient death, especially if you go into the hospital, especially if you go into ED, ICU, certain places like that. Now, I've never experienced a patient's death while in my current role, of course, because I'm in leadership. My prior role as being a postpartum or mother-baby nurse, I've never, thankfully, knock on wood, have experienced a patient's death or an infant death in that case. But when I did med-surg, yes. When I was doing med-surg, I had a patient pass away. Actually, multiple patients passed away on me. Very traumatic experience. And I was on night shift. I was the night shift girl until I became a nurse leader. And, I love my night shift girls. I got my heart now. But it's a very troubling and mentally exhausting event that can happen. My first experience of a patient's death was when I was doing my senior practicum at the hospital there. I was in the ICU, and the patient, it was a gentleman, and he, for whatever reason, passed away. When I went into the room before this was occurring, they caught the cold, and you got the doctor, you got the nurse, actually multiple nurses, respiratory, you got tons and tons of people in that one room. Everyone was doing compressions, and they kind of line up in a line, and a lot of times respiratory would be at the head of the bed, maybe getting ready to intubate the patient, or the doctor might be calling out orders or calling out things, kind of taking the lead, that type of thing. So that's kind of how it was. So I was next in line to do chest compressions. Little did I know that the patient had already expired. They wanted me to get practice with doing chest compressions. And so I'm on the bed, because I'm 5'6", y'all, okay? But I had to get on the bed to get good leverage so I can do the chest compressions and move my arms appropriately. Y'all, they let me do chest compressions on a patient who had already died. And of course, I didn't know this. I mean like died like a few minutes passed, not that just died, like a few minutes passed. So I was so just like distraught and upset, not just at them, but just upset at myself. I don't know. It was just a weird feeling to do compressions for your very, very first time and have it be on someone that's already gone. It was just, I don't know. I just couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. So in typical Shaquilla fashion, I called my boyfriend, my husband now. I called my boyfriend, and y'all, I went outside the hospital and I was sitting on the bench. It was a day shift. So people are coming and going, visitors galore, and they just see this nursing student. I'm assuming they thought I was a nursing student. I mean, I was, but I had all my little scrubs, and I'm on the phone just crying and shaking and talking to my boyfriend and just saying, this is crazy. He just died. I don't know what to do. I did everything I could, and da-da-da. And my husband's just the sweetest. He was there for me 100%. He understood how hurt and distraught I was. But when I came back, I maybe had been gone for about 10 minutes. When I came back to the unit, my preceptor, other nurses were asking about me. Where were you? We were looking for you. And I just told her, I said, listen, I was crying. I was literally physically ill. I had to call my boyfriend to get me to calm down because I was so afraid, so scared, so upset. Just the sheer idea of doing compressions on someone when they've passed and you don't know that they've passed, like they just wanted you to get the practice. And I can understand that from a preceptor perspective or whatever, but it just still was, it just still threw me. It just threw me. On a previous clinical rotation, I forget what I was doing, what rotation it was. I don't know if it was med surg or whatever it was, but we were doing kind of a tour, like a walkthrough with my instructor. It was a couple of us, and a nurse comes over and says, "Hey, I have a cold brown." Y'all know what that is. Y'all know what that is. I have a cold brown. I'm like, oh, I help. You know, that's me. I got you, boo. I'ma help. Why get in that room and it's poop galore? It's just poop everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I volunteer for this. I'm not that much of a person who gets squeamish or anything. I don't throw up, or I might gag or over certain things. Well, most of the time, I'm not gonna, like, I've never vomited from singing body fluids and things like that. Never have. But I was like, how dare she? Like, seriously, how dare she say you want to do a cold brown? And she know people gonna raise their hand. Maybe I was the only one that raised my hand. I don't know. I probably had been the only one because I probably was a little naive at the time. I probably didn't even know what the heck that was. You know what? I'm 100% sure I didn't know what a cold brown was, because the girl got me. If you watching this video, nurse from Columbus, you got me. You got me good. So the next point is using your resources. Ask your questions. Now, even if your preceptor no longer works there anymore, even if you're now on nights and she was on days, or vice versa, or she changed positions and went to a more specialized field, whatever the case may be, you still have people there who have been there longer than you, who have more information and more wherewithal than you do at this particular moment. Go ahead and ask those pertinent questions. You know what? I would rather you ask me 100 questions in a shift than you not ask a single question, and now this patient is having a demise, having some type of irregularity. You are responsible for your patients and you want to be held accountable for them, and that also you are utilizing your nursing license to the fullest. Don't think because you're now a nurse and you now pass boards that you can't get your license revoked and taken away from you or put on probation, because you can. So you need to take every precaution that you can and protect your license. So I would rather you ask me those questions and go kill a patient. I would rather you ask me those questions than to give a medication that this patient is allergic to, or will have an adverse reaction. I would rather you come get me to be a second set of eyes because you're doing a sterile procedure and changing the dressing on someone's JP drain. And if you don't know the answers to these questions and you're asking the questions, then pull out your little pen and pad, or pull out your laptop or whatever it is that you're using, and write down where you will find these the answers to those questions. So when that nurse said blood sugar for an infant is 25 and you're like, whoa, that's kind of low. What do I need to do when this baby's blood sugar is 25 or below? Figure out where you find that information instead of continuously going back and asking what the next step is. You need to know these answers and know where to find them. All it takes is one good, prudent nurse to change the culture of an entire unit. Be receptive, be open. When I say you need to care for your nursing license like it is a baby, a newborn baby, you must do this. Please do not be the nurse who decides to witness another nurse's medication waste or medication return, and you physically didn't actually see her waste that medication or return that medication. You didn't. But what you're doing is, when you put in your ID number, when you put in your password or your fingerprint or whatever the system you're using at your hospital, you are legally saying that you can vouch for nurse X for turning this medication in. 6 months down the line, nurse X is going to be under investigation because every time they pull the Pyxis report or the Acudose report, Omnicell, whatever machine you're using, when they pull the report, this nurse is always pulling double the dosage of medication that's prescribed for a patient and then returning half of the medication. And once that becomes a cyclical event and you're now on the radar of HR and all these other, specialized forces, your name is now going to be called into question because you have witnessed her return said medication. Never take medication home. Never put medication in your pockets. Y'all, we understand that you get busy. Don't be the type of nurse who pull all of your meds for all 4 or 5 of your patients at one time and then put them in your pocket. Patient A medication is top left, patient B medication is top right, patient C medication is my left lab coat pocket, and patient D medication is my right lab coat pocket. Don't do that, because you can mistakenly mix that medication up. The patient may then say, I don't want my morphine, and you forget to return the morphine. Now you've driven all the way home with a 30 milligram morphine tablet in your pocket. Are you going to come back to work and turn that in? I hope so. I hope you do. I hope you write an incident report. I hope you notify the supervisor and let them know that what happened. You should do that. Legally and ethically, that's your responsibility to do that. But you should not put yourself in the predicament where you have to do that. So I always say, never pad your pockets with medications. Only take medications enough for that one particular patient. And then if he or she refuses that morphine, that Benadryl, that Ativan, whatever it is, then go directly back to the Pyxis or Omnicell and return it. Get a witness right then and there. Don't just put it in your pocket, stow away for later. Let me go run and chart this on this patient real quick because I know this patient's ready to be discharged. Let me go ahead and get them out, and then I'll come back and return it. Don't do that, because life will life. Things will happen. You might have a patient crash. You might have an admission. You might have labs to all of a sudden be drawn because the doctor has now put in 2,500 lab work on a patient, and now it's your responsibility to get all that together. Don't do that to yourself. And lastly, the last thing I will say is to please take care of yourself. I spoke a little bit about this in my previous video. I'm going to put it in the cards here. You know what's best for you. If you're the type of person who likes to wake up half an hour before you officially have to get up for work, do a little bit of stretching, do a little bit of reading the Bible, even if it's a couple verses, maybe doing a little bit of journaling. It could be as simple as going to the kitchen and making yourself a smoothie. Shout out to my husband, House of Gray, the House of Gray Media. Film, photography, all your dreams, baby, come true. What I've been doing lately, besides my smoothies, is kind of saying my gratitudes in the morning before I even check an email, before I check social media, before I check analytics on anything. I want to make sure that I say my gratitude even before I even get out of the bed, y'all. Say gratitude and thanks. Give thanks to God. Without him, I wouldn't even be able to sit here in front of you guys on camera and talk about nursing. I wouldn't be able to talk about education or scholarship. These types of things that truly do bring me joy. Without him, I wouldn't even be a nurse. Without him, y'all, I wouldn't even be alive today. That's on God. We can talk about that in another story. You got to figure out a way to take care of yourself and to feed your spirit. You got to feed your spirit and feed your soul. This is a fleshly body. I say this all the time. I'm put on this earth to work in God's favor. And if God wants me to be a light upon others in the dark, that's what I'm going to do. God has set things upon my heart that I have yet to even open the door for by starting a YouTube channel. I didn't want to start a YouTube channel. I didn't want to have an Instagram page. I didn't even want to have a business bank account for the scholarship foundation that I have. I didn't want that. But God said, yes, you need this. This is what I'm doing for you. I'm putting you in the path of righteousness. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm giving you the tools that you need to survive, thrive, engage. Be there for someone who you will want to have been there for you when you were in their situation 10, 15, 20 years ago. I just got to follow. I just have to believe. I have to believe that I'm here for a reason. I have to believe that God has given me gifts upon gifts and that they need to be shared to the world. And this is what I'm doing. Scared, nervous, thinking that people are going to talk crap about me because of something that's on my face. I stutter when I speak. I don't have the best lighting, don't have the best communication skills. I don't have the best transitions and this and that. But God said, just do it anyway. One day I just woke up and said, today's the day. January 4th, 2023. That was the day that I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop standing in my way and let God use me how he wants me to be used. And here I am today. So I'm going to end this video by saying, you can do all things. Christ is there for us all. And this is not me trying to convert people. You believe who you believe, what you believe. You are meant to be great. You are meant to shine. You are meant to live life abundantly and fully You are meant to give the world a piece of you, and to leave a legacy, not just for children, your children, but to leave a legacy for people that will come 50, 100 years from now. My husband says this: planting love in the earth, one seed at a time. If I can plant something in one person, I've done my job. Honestly, I've done my job. I have been fulfilled. God has given me everything I needed. And all I want to do is give my gifts and to share my purpose with the world. I'm not gonna cry. Y'all not gonna let me cry. I'm not doing it. We ain't doing it. So I'm gonna end it right here. Okay. If you want to be supportive of our foundation, the Indigo Foundation, please visit www.ifrn.org. Now, this foundation, we give scholarship money to underserved women of color in the Atlanta and surrounding areas who want to attend nursing school. Also, if you want some downloadable PDFs, go to the website. It's for nurses starting out in their careers or for nursing students. Thank you so much for watching this video, but I will see you in this video next.